And hello, welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I am your host, Daren. Jaime. We thank you for joining us. Now, if you're asking the question, what is the show about? We bring you a forum discussing and providing a deeper understanding of the issues and the inequities that so many communities face. Things such as systemic inequalities to pressing social problems. Our guests provide multiple perspectives and insights, helping us better understand and address the challenges. So, we invite you to stay connected to us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. And we are back. Our guest has journeyed from incarceration to inspiration, dedicating his life to guiding inner city youth away from the pitfalls of gang activity. His mission to equip young people with essential emotional management skills that are vital for steering clear of negative influences. Here now, we're pleased to have speaker and founder of Secure Your Energy, Junior Samuels. And Junior, good to have you.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. Good to see you and good to have you here on the show. And glad that we can have this conversation because, as we say, you've taken your life and you've really transitioned. You had one life that you lived before, but now an advocate for those who are actually in that life and then some. So how's it for you? And talk to us a little about the advocacy component.
Um, for me, it feels good. It feels good to be able to be out here and actually live what I've been thinking about doing for so long. I was inside incarcerated for 15 years, and I always had a vision to come back out here and give back to the community. I know that I made a bad decision when I was a youth. So I know one of the ways that I wanted to give indirect amends back to the victims that I harmed, families that I don't harm, is by coming out here and pushing a positive energy to the youth, those especially that's walking the shoes that I once wore before, and just trying to give them awareness and let them know that they have a choice to get out that lifestyle that they choosing to live this moment. And just trying to let them know that they have a choice. I never like to force anything on no one. I just like to give them a view, a look of what they walk, the life they walking in, and where it can lead them and put them into.
Well, you look at your life and you look at where you are right now, obviously you made that transition and you're there. But what was the turning point for you to say, listen, you know what? I need to get my life together because there's only two other ways it's going to go. One is incarceration and the other is the cemetery.
Um, the turning point for me was when I was sentenced to 15 to life. I either said to myself, I either want to become a prison legend or I want to get back home to my family. So that was the turning point. That's when I said to myself that I got to wake up. I got to get myself together. I was so tired of subjecting myself to living in an environment that was just so abnormal, where you got you living in a dorm setting or you living in a cell setting where you seeing things that's going on. You see kids fighting for cereal, fighting to sit on a chair, fighting for chicken, who could get on the phone. Uh, the mindset of the corrupt officers doing certain things and seeing kids dying there. It was just like, you know what? It's either I want to live my life like this or make it back home to my family. And that was just the turning point where I knew I had to get things right. And I just started putting myself in certain programs. Like I started first, I'm a religious person. My religion is Islam. I'm a Muslim. So I started taking my religion seriously, and I also started putting myself in therapeutic programs where I know I had to fix myself. I had to dig deep in myself to get to understand what's going on and making me so angry, so bitter. What's putting me in that state. And then I also went to college where education is important. When you educate your mind and break you free from ignorance. So
Yeah.
it was just a turning point.
Let me ask the question of you here. When you talk about young people right now today, you see you in a lot of them, right? And you see where you've been. Uh, what are young people contending with that maybe others don't really recognize? Because every young person that does wrong doesn't always, wasn't always from a bad background. They've had great parents, good people around them. Everybody doesn't have, a broken home system, but they still sometimes make bad decisions, bad choices. For you right now, what are you seeing out there with our young people on the street?
Um, they not being told I love you. That's just it. I think it's a lot of young kids seeking to know. They not being told. They not also being told how important and how special they are as a person. You think about it. A lot of kids in today's society never heard those three words before. I love you, really from a genuine place. They don't know how great they are, how much great gift and talent that they have as an individual. So they suffering from peer pressure, they suffering from trying to be down, and many more other things that comes with being in that so-called environment that they in. So I think they just gotta be more, they gotta know that they're special and they love. When a person know that they're gifted with something, I think it changed the way they look at things.
And when you look at things differently, you possibly do things differently. You've got a shirt on that talks about secure your energy, and that's a pretty unique shirt. Give me a little bit of what secure your energy is really all about.
Okay, so secure your energy is like, first and foremost, I'll just give you, like I was just talking about, being in the most worst environment that's so negative, environment that's people can't even fantasize or even visualize what goes on in that environment. So in that environment, I found a way to learn how to secure my energy and put my energy in the right place by changing that negative environment and knowing that my body is locked up, but not letting my mind be locked up by doing things that's positive. Like I said, I was also a community leader, being in there working out, uh, going to school, taking therapeutic program to get really deep within myself, helping individuals that need help, talking to kids that I see coming in there that remind me of myself and letting them know to take this opportunity to change. So I found a way to secure my energy in a negative environment. So secure energy is like finding things that can change that negative into a positive and making sure that you secure it and lock it and making sure nothing can break through that lock. Only person that could break and change that lock is you and yourself. So I found a way to just channel that energy into positive and secure it. And that's what I've been doing. So even it's not only for the people that come within a community that we looked at as poverty or community that's so much negative activity come out. You could be in a business where you could secure your energy. Because you got people that go through work, they might have coworkers in there they're not getting along with. You might have just find a way to secure that energy and put it. Think of something positive. You might want to go. You might have to take a walk. You might want to write in a journal. Many things that can help you to secure your energy.
Right. And let's break it down because it's really about emotional management, right? Because when you talk about
Absolutely.
having control of your emotions, what gets people behind bars, incarcerated, right? There are a lot of people right now who said, "Listen, I probably wouldn't be doing this many years if I had better emotional management." You give a little bit of your testimony as well, saying the same thing. Talk to us about this emotional management piece and the lack thereof in our young people, the work that you're doing, because I know that's a component that you teach heavy on.
Absolutely. So the emotional management. First, I tell people to be proactive. Understand when it comes to emotional management, you first and foremost have to be proactive. And being proactive is taking the responsibility and accountability of your life. And knowing that it comes with four different levels. You have a freedom of choice, you have a conscious mind, your imagination, and you have an independent will. Knowing that everything that goes on in your life is a choice that you made. It's up to you to take control of it and know what can I do to make better choices in my life. Know that I have a choice to say, you know what, I'm from this environment. Despite I don't have a parent, I didn't grow up with my mom, my dad, or anybody to give me some type of guidelines. I'm gonna still make the choice to do better by educating myself and putting myself in places that can help me grow and become a better person. So I think when it comes to the emotional management, it's all about you. You have to learn yourself and understand you got to love yourself. And as you love yourself, you take the responsibility and accountability to do better with yourself.
Yeah. You know, people such as yourself who've been incarcerated now out there doing the right thing and really trying to help people out have gotten the term, and you're deemed as quote unquote credible messengers right now in the community. Somebody that, you know, both sides can represent. Can represent both sides at the same time. Both sides are also respectful of. As a credible messenger in the community right now, what's it like talking not to young people, but really to those in government, to those who are, you know, community leaders and things like that? Because, you know, sometimes it's hard to get your voice heard based on the fact that people look at you from your past. But the reality is that, hey, you know, there's a message that needs to be sent, and a message that needs to be heard.
So speaking to these people that, like, I feel like I just try to paint a picture to them so they can visualize what's going on and how the message can be helpful for the youth. You know, what a better message, or what a better person is coming from a person that actually wore the shoes and once lived that lifestyle. So I feel like you have to let them know that kids don't listen to what you say; they watch what you do. And when they know of someone that walked that same lifestyle as them and heard of it, it's like, okay, let's hear what he got to talk about. So when I'm around these individuals, I just try to basically give them my mission and let them know what I want to do and show them the work I've been doing, and just hoping that I could get some type of support and help. But if I'm proactive, it's not going to stop me to continue to do what I got to do to help the community. Because if one person hear it, it's better than none, you know?
Yeah. You know, talk to me. You're on YouTube as well, and how's your YouTube channel been working out for you and really helping you to get your message across?
My YouTube channel, I just been making a lot of content on like certain things that goes on in the environment, and it's just certain. So one of the content I made is like, it was kids, we was about to go on so-called what you hear so many kids use as a drill. And before, you know, going on a drill, you know, a lot of times you really don't want to do what you're about to do, but due to the fact that you with your friends, that ego make you feel like you have to do it. So before the kid was about to go do something, I stopped him and I tell him, think about what you're gonna do. Think about when you pull that trigger or whatever you do, know that there's no going back from it. Know that nobody's gonna be there for your daughter, your son. If your mom is sick, if your mom need help, nobody's gonna help her with the grocery. Nobody's gonna come there for you. So I try to let them know what's gonna happen when they make that choice by doing these little content, so they could reflect on it like, damn, maybe if I go do that, he's right. Nobody's gonna be there for me, so maybe I don't need to do it. Just show them that sometimes think about what you're about to do, because once you do that, it ain't no going back.
Right.
You got to be able to accept what comes with it.
Talk to me about what came with it for you for 15 years. What were the consequences that you felt from behind prison doors?
Ooh, losing out on a lot of things, man. Losing out on a lot of family activities. What came with it was just being a. It changed the whole way how I look at life, man. Just I started to appreciate the little things that I never once appreciated. Just going to the store, being able to just go buy groceries, being able to open up a refrigerator when you want, walking out the house when you need to go out so much came with being in there that it's a great question. So much came with it.
Yeah. And your message now to young people about that is what?
My message now is to, like I always say, man, be mindful of the choices you make. Just know that you have a choice. You have the choice to change your life now. It's up to you. You know, just be able to. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to put your ego and pride to the side and know that it don't change who you are, man. Because that one choice that you make, that bad decision that you make, can change your life for a long time. And it could change it where there's no more getting that time back. Because once time go, There's no more time getting that time back. So just think about the choices that you make. Know that you are able to change those choices right now.
And for people who want to get in touch with you and take advantage of what you have to offer, how do they do that?
You can follow my Instagram, Secure Your Energy. Come on my Instagram and you could DM me. I'm working on setting up a website right now, and you can contact me if you want me to come to school, speak to the kids. If you have any events, that's where you could contact me right now. At the website is getting worked on at this moment.
No worries whatsoever. And I want to take the time to say thank you for really taking the time and sharing a little bit about, your message and really the transparency of the life and the lifestyle. I think that that's also, a make or break for a lot of people, because we got a lot of brothers and sisters who, come from incarceration, but don't necessarily let people know the real about what goes on behind bars. People think behind bars can be fun, and that's a life all by itself. But the truth is, man, you fighting just to live in there.
You're absolutely right. Every day you fight. It's like a purge in there. You don't know what's gonna happen within that 24 hours. You done seen so much different things happening. You don't know. You could come out your cell and don't make it back to your cell. So you're just saying to yourself, what could happen? It could be a riot in the yard. Someone could either get cut, where you might be the person to get blamed for it. You don't know what happened. A CO might come in and they might not be feeling right. You might be the person they pick to get on the wall. While you get on the wall, they want to think they can slap you. So much different things happen within that 24 hours. You say to yourself, I hope I come back to this cell. Like, you never know what could happen. So I'm grateful for being here to share my story, man, and be able to, hopefully this right here can touch a youth and change their life. But, thank you, man.
Well, I want to thank you so much, my brother Junior, for being with us here, and Junior Samuels taking the time to be with us today. And it's definitely an inspiration to have you come on and share a little bit about your journey and your story. And I hope that not just your story is heard, but also the message that you have for today for not just our young people, but also for our community. So, man, thank you so much for being with us. And I hope we get a chance to connect soon and have you back.
Yes, you will, man. Thank you. I'm grateful for being on, man. Thank you.
Hey, my love. Appreciate you, brother. All right. Hey, thank you. We're taking a quick break, but guess what? We got more open coming on right after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. .55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. .34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Hey, creative family, my name is Timothy Coleman, and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx, because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
And welcome back. For months leading up to the first debate, concerns over President Biden's cognitive health have been a focal point for voters across the nation. Following the recent debate with President Trump, former President Trump, I should say, these doubts have really escalated and escalated further with a growing number of voters, including Democrats, questioning President Biden's candidacy. Join me now to tell their point of view on this matter. I'm joined by the associate editorial page editor of the New York Post, Michael Benjamin, who joins us right now. And Mike, good to have you back.
Glad to be back, Daren. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, my brother, and great to have you to have this conversation right now. I think that a lot of us are still, in amazement because as we thought about President Biden, we knew that he definitely was of age. But the truth is he looked aged by the time the debate was over. Your take on the debate?
Oh, I tuned in late, and what I saw was truly disturbing to me. I got angry, I got upset, and I was wondering why he's running for president. I was stunned by his inability to properly debate with Donald Trump and to respond to Donald Trump's exaggerations and lies and carry on the debate forcefully. And like many Democrats, I thought he should consider, not running for president because he's not up to it at this point. It seems obvious that he's not the man he was 4 years ago.
Do you agree or disagree that there's a legitimate argument that can be made? The Biden family actually said, or people close to the Biden family said, listen, there's a couple things that came to place. Number one, he didn't debate well. Number two, those people who are working closest to him didn't properly get him in the right direction, particularly combating a lot of things that former President Trump had said, and then also outlining the accomplishments. How much is to blame of the camp? While we're always talking about the president himself, how much can we throw at the camp?
My only thing I'd say about the camp is his advisors, people surrounding him, is that for me, it was a political malpractice to allow him to appear at the debate last week. If I were a senior advisor advising him and I saw a condition he was in, even this cold that they claim he had, I would not let him go to the debate. I would cancel it, claiming the cold is what made it impossible for him to properly be at the debate. But it's really on the president. Had he been in really good mental health and who he was 4 years ago, he would be able to carry on with the facts and figures that he needed. He may, if he was overwhelmed by the information he was given, it's because of his age and because of his diminishing mental acuity.
Can you answer the question for us? Why did he even choose to give him a debate? And meaning former President Trump, why did the president consider giving a debate, given the fact that former President Trump, is the presumptive nominee and not the nominee? The question is, why do we even have this debate this early? And there's a lot of backfall on that.
Well, both men are the presumptive nominees of their parties, technically. They need the conventions to formally nominate them for the November general election. So, and I think the president's people, when the president agreed to debate, because he really is down in the polls in those key swing states, and they wanted to get some level of momentum coming into the conventions, and also playing off the fact that former President Trump was recently convicted in New York in the hush money trial involving payments to the porn star, I've forgotten her name, Stormy Daniels. So they wanted to play off of that conviction and to hammer home the conviction and that embarrassment to the Republican Party. But it turned out that people turned out to be embarrassed was the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and that's been basically what's been the news cycle since last week, Thursday.
Yeah, it has been. Let's talk about this here, because when we talk about former President Trump, looking at the Supreme Court, recent decision handed down by the court ruling that he is, quote unquote, substantially immune from prosecution on charges that he tried to subvert the 2020 election. Democrats and many people were hinging on the Supreme Court coming down in a different kind of way. What does this do for the former president?
Well, it's doing what he's been doing the last couple of days since the decision came down. He's been crowing about, being sort of exonerated, having justice done, that he can do these things because he has immunity, and that it was lawfare by Democrats against him. perpetrated by the president and others who wanted to, pull him down. I happen to think aspects of the Supreme Court ruling are troubling. Like me, we grew up during the Nixon era when we had the Nixon trial, the Nixon when he when he committed his own crimes politically and eventually forced him from office. Had this decision been made back then, the President Nixon would have gotten away with sicking the IRS on his political enemies. This decision said that's okay. That, in my view, is improper. Yes, maybe his communication with his official staff maybe leads to a level of immunity. I think the president should be prosecuted for decisions he makes in conducting, let's say, war or drone strikes against enemy combatants in foreign lands and protecting the United States. But when you're looking to sick the government on your political enemies, I think there's no immunity for that for criminal prosecution. I don't think there's any immunity for sicking a crowd of angry, supporters on the Capitol as they're trying to certify the November 2020 election. That was improper, and he was a part of that. I think he ought to be held liable, and for the American people, for a jury to decide, you know, what his culpability is. The Supreme Court technically has thrown the case back to lower federal courts to determine the parameters of what is immune and what isn't immune. Certain conversations that are not related to his official duties. I think like calling the Secretary of State in Georgia, telling him he needs only a few more votes in order to win that state, I would think that is not immune from prosecution.
Yeah, and when I think about well, I should not say about the former president, one of the things that came up was Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jones Brown, and she talks about the fact, right? She talked about the fact that, listen, when we look at what's happened here in the Supreme Court, we didn't do much justice here. I'm paraphrasing. She said pretty much we're kicking the can down here for it to come back again in a lot of ways. Does she have a reasonable argument to say, listen, we can see this again?
No, she's correct. The fact that it's been returned to lower courts to determine the parameters of what is constitutes presidential immunity in the charges that are brought against Trump. Trump could then appeal, and then the appeal goes back to the Supreme Court to make another decision as to whether or not that ruling by lower courts on immunity should stand. Yes, it's terrible. It's unfortunate this is all taking place during presidential election year. It should have taken place sometime in 2022 or 2023 prior to the election, so that we would not have had the political aspects of an impending election, coloring the decisions of the Supreme Court and coloring the reactions of the public, of elected officials, and partisan politicians to that decision.
Yeah. Well, let me go here. I want to go back for a minute and just go take a look back at a couple of things we talked about the Supreme Court. In addition to their decision on the former president's immunity, there's also what affects all of us here, and that's the issue of homelessness. Ruling the cities can ban homeless encampments. First of all, let me get your take on your perspective on that. Should cities be able to ban homeless encampments?
Well, cities have long banned encampments within city limits. In New York City, you can't pitch a tent in the city park. It's always been the law. It's not against the rights of the homeless to live on the street. No one should be living on the street. No one should be living in encampments under bridges. It's unsafe. It's unhealthy. And cities have had the ability to do that as a matter of protecting individuals and a matter of protecting the public health. No one has a right to be homeless, and no one should live on the street. I think cities like New York, San Francisco, Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles that are seeing these homeless encampments are trying to get people into proper shelter. In order to encourage people to go to shelter, you have to ban encampments. It's not a legal right to sleep on the street or to sleep in a public park. So I think the decision was correct. It leaves it to the local authorities to determine what's best for their cities and to encourage people to actually go to shelters, whether it's city provided shelters or it's private shelters. It's up to each city as to what they do, but I do think they do have the right to regulate the use of their parks and their streets. And it's not a place for people to live homelessly.
You know, when we think about the Supreme Court, we think about a solid group of people, traditionally, people who are very well versed on the law, people who have it all together. But as I begin to look and see some of the things that we're seeing happening right now, I'm beginning to question what's going on in the Supreme Court, given the fact that we've seen, once again, leaks that are coming out of the Supreme Court office. We're actually getting understanding of decisions and getting ready to come down before they actually come down. They're made to be made as accidents. What can we make of what we're hearing and seeing out of the Supreme Court right now? Even though that they are the nation's highest court in the land, they still are not without some leaks within their own building.
Yeah, I think it points to division within the court itself, not just among the 9 judges, but among their staff who have concerns about the decisions. And I don't think the leaks are by accident. I think that there are some staff who are angry and upset at the court and are, in my view, I don't have this for a fact, but I believe they are the ones who are responsible for these leaks and getting decisions out ahead of time, so the public knows what this court will be deciding on. That's sort of gin up opposition to the court. Second, I think the court has been captured by ideologues over the last 20 years, and that's reflective of what's happening within our own country, with our governmental institutions captured by ideologues on the left and on the right. And it's creating this cleavage, which is resulting in a diminished care or respect for American institutions, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's support system, whether it's those who are in the educational system, whether it's anyone in government. We have lost faith, and this continues that erosion, and that's not good for our country. It's not good for our democracy, and we need to dial it back. All this hyper partisanship, all this leaning in an ideology. Whether you're looking at whether it's woke ideology, or it's racial politics, racial identity, or it's gender and sex and orientation identity. It's not good for our nation, and it's leading to these cleavages, and it's leading to the loss of faith. Right? Institutions that at one time we regard as being neutral and actually working in the defense of the people, and that's highly unfortunate, because the Supreme Court has been responsible for things that have allowed African Americans to live more freely in our country, to exercise our rights. And to see some of the things that are happening today, where people are losing faith in the ability of the court to be a independent arbiter, non-ideological, and interpreting the law that benefits individuals regardless of race, color, or creed, or political ideology.
Yeah. When we talk about the President of the United States, he's going to have a long way to go. Obviously, that debate will go down in history as one of the most watched and disappointing, and at the same time telltale debates in presidential history, one that will be talked about for some time to come, giving Democrats some really angst about the whole situation as we get closer towards Election Day. We look here in the borough of the Bronx and Mount Vernon. We know that Congressman Jamal Bowen was defeated in his race. And we know the Republicans are really gaining in momentum. Talk to us about, first of all, that race, Congressman Bowen's race, the fact that there was no surprise there because we knew that money was being thrown to make sure to get the seat. But talk to us about that race and possibly the potential impact that could have in the longstanding elections.
It doesn't. I mean, I am familiar with George Latimer. He was my colleague in the assembly. I sat a few rows away, a few seats away from him in my 8 years there. George is a good man. He's a good Democrat. The seat is not in danger of being lost to Republicans in November. That's not going to happen. It's a safe Democratic seat. George Latimer is a good, safe, moderate Democrat, somebody I supported. Had I lived in a district, I probably would have cast a vote for him. Congressman Bowman, was divisive on a couple of issues. Many of them having to do with left versus center. Not wanting to support President Biden and his agenda in D.C. and moving towards more of a left agenda, socialist agenda that many voters are opposed to. And most importantly, his position on the war in Gaza and Israel's ability and right to self-defense and prosecute a war to its successful end that satisfied the people of Israel and not the people of the United States or to satisfy Palestinians. There was a ceasefire, there was a general peace in Gaza and in northern Israel between them and Hezbollah and Hamas. Hamas broke that peace in a most savage way, and Israel, I think, had every right to defend itself. Congressman Bowman chose to defend the side of the Palestinians and the side of Hamas without making any clear distinctions. I mean, Israel was attacked, and America is their ally, and America rightfully came to its aid. And Congressman Bowman felt differently, and he engaged in language and in beliefs that were contrary to that of his constituents, and he lost the race. Did he lose the race because of outside influence, outside money? Money is interesting. Money does a lot of things. It provides information to the voters, but at the end of the day, voters made up their mind based on the facts on the ground in that district, and they chose to vote in the overall for George Latimer. Yes, the Bronx portion of that district went to Congressman Bowman as the incumbent, and that was probably likely be expected. Latimer was that well known in the Bronx, but he wasn't wiped out totally in the Bronx. He did get Bronx support from African Americans and other people. I don't see how the outcome of that race has any effect on what happens nationally.
Yeah. And what happens nationally, Mike, when you look at what's happening right now, do the Republicans have a stronghold, given the fact that this debate was a debacle of some sorts?
Regardless of the debate, I think that it's going to be hard for Democrats to oust the four New York Republicans who are targeted for defeat in order for Democrats to regain control of the House. The president's poor performance will undermine efforts around the country to win back seats from Republicans and to give the Democrats the majority, so that our Brooklyn Congressman Hakeem Jeffries can become the next Speaker of the House. It's going to be a hard road between now and December for Democrats to get the wins they were counting on. I think it's because people may lose faith in the ability of the president to win, and it may cause some in the swing states to to vote for Trump and then down ballot vote for other Republicans who are not crazy. I don't think any of the four Republicans who are in the New York delegation can be classified as MAGA or classified as crazies. They're very reasonable men. One of them I did serve with in the assembly. The others seem to be okay. This comes down to the voters in Syracuse and in Long Island and the suburban counties of upstate New York, that's north of New York City, to determine if those members ought to be returned to office. And the Democrats are going to have to put money into those races to try to win those seats back and to convince suburban voters that the Democratic Party is the party for them nationally, and that President Biden, if he still remains a nominee, is the person who will win the White House and govern and guide the nation safely over the next 4 years.
It's pretty interesting to note that when you do the study and you look at New York State as a whole, New York State could pretty much be defined as a red state if it wasn't for New York City. There's a lot of people who are voting Republican in a lot of areas up in New York State, particularly when it came to the last presidential election of President Trump. It seemed as though that more people voted Republican in New York State, with the exception of New York City, I'm saying.
Right, but New York State is a very, very blue state.
Yes.
Of the 26 members of Congress, only 4 Republicans. So I think it's a 4 or 5 Republican. I think clearly New York is a blue state. Yes, in some upstate suburban areas and rural areas, they vote Republican, but not in large enough numbers to again control the state. I mean, you see that in the assembly of the 150 assembly members, fewer than 40 are Republicans. In the state Senate, fewer than at least 10 or 20 are, fewer than 20 are Republican senators from New York, primarily upstate rural New York. New York is a blue state. And in areas where you have Republican voters, they're not highly populated, densely populated, and therefore the Democrats have the edge in voter registration, voter turnout, and in electing Democrats to the public office. So yeah, New York is not close to being red.
Oh yeah, didn't that wasn't my point there. I don't think we'll see New York be a red state for uh, a long time to come. I think the way it's traditionally been is the way that it will traditionally be, which is blue. But definitely we can see more and more people at least coming out to vote on the Republican side. Can we look for going towards November, Mike?
I'm going to say if people are voting for Republicans, it's because they're voting for issues that are important to them. In many cases, it's looking for a restoration of law and order and quality of life in communities, um, and ensuring that need to have good schools and ensuring that ideology doesn't come to play and involve itself in the day-to-day aspects of our lives, and being able to have to sort of live normally, and many would say to live free, and not to have certain things imposed on them, whether it's no bail or it's certain housing laws that give tenants more power over small property owners. Those are the things I think that concern many people and may lead some to vote for Republicans.
As we look towards November, I know one other thing that we're talking about here, and I had it down in my notes, was the fact that we saw more and more people coming out for this presidential debate in numbers, and I'm talking about watching the presidential debate. And you also see those who are in between. And more after that debate were leaning towards President Trump, former President Trump. Anything that can be done from Democrats by way of messaging to kind of reclaim the ownership.
Reclaim ownership with the facts as to what Democrats have been able to do for the country, what President Biden has been able to do for the country. Yes, people are primarily upset about inflation, the high cost of living in the last few years. There are some who insist that they had more money in their pockets under Trump, well, probably because inflation wasn't that high. But there are other issues that are important. Right? There are those who will say that there weren't any wars under Trump. That's something that President Biden can't control. I mean, he didn't invite the Russians to invade Ukraine. He didn't invite Hamas to attack Israel. He didn't invite other conflicts around the world. But they happen on his watch, and he's trying his best to handle them. And people saw the debate as like a wrestling match. They're entertained by it, and because of the president's slip-ups and inability to properly defend himself at the proper debate, in their view, of course, regardless of the exaggerations and lies that Trump told, they believe he won because he looked the most vigorous and he looked the most confident. And so I don't hold that as something that's going to hold through November. I think the Democrats, the President Biden, have a lot of things to consider. And I think he really should consider, the president declining the nomination and allowing other Democrats to come forward to run for president and vice president.
Yeah, the news that we have that's coming out right now, I mean, it's right now as we speak, as of this particular broadcast, is the president has privately acknowledged the coming days are crucial to whether he can save his re-election bid. And then also, the news also coming out says that he is also telling an ally that he is considering dropping out of the presidential race. So we'll see what happens there. But very clearly, the coming days after this debate, very critical in terms of getting people back and getting people back on swing. You talked about if the president drops out and declines the nomination, what are some names that you would be interested in seeing at the top of the list?
Well, the most obvious name, of course, is his vice president, Kamala Harris. I mean, she's been with him for 4 years. She's the vice president. She's the person who's next in line for the presidency, and therefore she's next in line for the party nomination. You have California Governor Gavin Newsom. who's been, many would say, has been auditioning as a shadow president in preparation for a day like this or the 2028 elections. You have Michigan Governor Whitmer. You have the Illinois governor. You have a number of Democrats that are out there who would consider themselves to be possible candidates for the presidency. I've heard Reverend Warnock, the commissioner, the senator out of Georgia, as a possible nominee for the presidency. I like to see somebody who's who has experience, who has some level of foreign policy experience, who has public policy, domestic policy agenda under his or her belt to be the party's nominee. Of course, somebody who's vigorous and can actively, defend defend the party's goals and agenda and policies against Donald Trump and exposing Trump for the, for the fraud that he is.
Yeah, and those names, they're pretty much good names, and a lot of them out there right now. Definitely waiting to see what happens with the president and whether or not the president actually declines the nomination. We talk about age, but the truth is, if the former president's elected, in the words of the kids on the block, he's no spring chicken himself.
I mean, Trump, yes.
Yeah.
Trump is 3 years younger than the president, but he's also getting up there in age as well. And he has some mental acuity issues as well, aside from his, serial prevarications and exaggerations and playing fast and loose with the facts and not being, a policy person. And he's admitted that. He just wants to govern by the gut and wants to, retaliate against those who he perceives as having slighted him. And to me, he doesn't have the character to continue to serve in the presidency for another term.
Yeah. And Mike, what are we to make of the fact that, we know that the former president's been convicted on 34 counts for Attorney General Letitia James. Obviously an opportunity to say, yes, we were able to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. But yet and still, when it comes to the former president, he still has an opportunity to run for office and then, make the most of it. What does it say for us as a country when you have someone who's convicted, someone who's got 3 bankruptcies, and you still can run for the highest office in the land?
It shows the bar is low. But I wanted to correct one thing. Attorney General James's case was a civil case brought against Trump's businesses. It was Manhattan DA Bragg who successfully, I guess, led the prosecution of Trump on those 34 charges related to the hush money case. I didn't agree with the jury verdict. I don't think that trial should have been brought. It wasn't something that you usually do. So I was in total disagreement with that decision, in fact, with that case being brought. But it shows us that when somebody with Trump's kind of record, number one, got elected back in 2016, and is now making another effort and has a following that seemed likely to put him back in office. I mean, he cleared the deck in the Republican, primaries against some really qualified people, and he just stomped on them in the primaries. He has a following. I don't care for his character. I don't care for his policies, but there are those Americans who do. It's unfortunate, but we live in a democracy, and it needs to be hashed out and decided come November. I'm hoping Democrats put together a winning team, a winning ticket that can defeat Trump and the forces behind him.
One thing that I think that many people are talking about when it comes to Democrats is the fact that if there's going to be any victory whatsoever, there has to be more than just an anti-Trump message to be able to win people over. They've got a lot of people who are on the fence, and they want to hear more than an anti-Trump message. And they feel as though the Democrats have not been clear in their messaging as to accomplishments, as to what's occurred, and as to what the future actually holds. How would you size that up?
I definitely agree with you. The president, the Democrats and President Biden have not had a good message. They need a Ronald Reagan message about morning in America. The contrast Donald Trump's dark vision, calling the United States a failing country, a failing government. A country overrun by violent criminal migrants, immigrants, illegal immigrants from around the world. We need a better vision coming out of the Democrats that focus on the future, that tells young people, yes, things are tough now. It looks like you're going to be able to own your own home, but we will implement policies that will turn that around. We'll implement policies that will ensure that Americans who feel their future threatened by artificial intelligence and loss of jobs to AI, loss of jobs to lower, less costly labor competition around the world. We need to give Americans hope of a better future for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. And that's not coming from the White House or for Democrats right now. And all we keep hearing is the Donald Trump dark vision that America is being destroyed, America is in trouble, America is failing. Democrats have answers. They have to focus on countering Trump, and they can counter it by being funny like Ronald Reagan and pointing to a brighter future and explain exactly how they would get there.
Yeah. I got to ask you this question about black jobs. I heard a lot about black jobs from both sides. Maybe I'm working a black job. I don't know if this is a black job or not. We don't know. But listen, black jobs, it came up for, we can laugh about it today, but it was no laughing matter. To hear that conversation from both sides, I left there kind of disheartened that somehow or another that neither side got it. I don't know. Let me just get your thought on black jobs.
Technically, black unemployment is much lower than it's been in several years. There are no specific black jobs. I don't really sure exactly what Trump was talking about. I think generally he's talking about the fact that illegal immigration especially, tends to make it a little bit harder for African Americans to move into the middle class. There are a number of studies that have shown that. So he was told this, but he just sort of misunderstood it and didn't articulate it correctly. African Americans, native born, don't tend to be supporters of illegal immigration, and in my view, rightly so. And there is a competition that can hurt the black middle class, having African Americans move up further into the middle class when you have unrestricted legal immigration that can hurt them in that way. So it wasn't specifically looking at a generic set of black jobs. It's about the ability of African Americans to move into the middle class via meaningful and significant employment. And Trump was exaggerating about the loss of jobs by African Americans in the United States over the last few years. But again, like I said, in reality, African American unemployment is at its lowest level in several years.
Yeah. Before we go, get you the opportunity to share a little bit. What are your eyes looking at when it comes to politically as we get closer down the line?
What am I looking at personally? Talking or the New York Post?
Yeah, New York Post. New York Post.
The New York Post is all in for Republican candidates, and they've been hammering the president on his mental acuity, his debate issues, and whether or not he should be running again for another term. I believe that people will be endorsing Donald Trump come November. That's where the paper stands right now, and they'll be throwing everything at President Biden to encourage him not to run, and to encourage voters to cast their votes for Republicans. I think voters in the Bronx and other parts of the city have a different view, but I think it's incumbent upon Democrats, if they want to win, to encourage President Biden to decline the nomination at the convention and to nominate two other persons to run who are stronger, who are more vigorous, and can present that sunny message about a brighter future for Americans and their children and their grandchildren, so that the Democrats can prevail in the November elections and Democrats can win down ballot congressional seats and to regain the majority.
Yeah. And most of all, I think that you also have to be able to have somebody at the forefront that can speak against Trump too. You know, I mean, I look at Gavin Newsom. I don't think he has a problem. I think the former, the president, vice president, she doesn't have a problem. But if Trump looks like he dominates any of them, it's going to be a longer dog walk for Democrats.
Yes, yes. Again, it's going to come down to the ability of the Democrat, whoever the nominee, to present a good message, a funny message that counters the former President Trump's dark vision of a dark America, of America that's failing, and counteract that, and also, focus on his exaggerations and his lies. Present Americans with the truth. And it's not making it so much about, black versus white, or evil versus good, or democracy versus dictatorship, but who will be better, whose agenda will be better for Americans to present us with security, and prosperity. And the Democrats have to figure out what that vision is, what that message is, and who are the best two people, president and vice president, to deliver that message on the campaign stump between now and November.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Great conversation as always. We love getting together and talking, and you bring some great insight to what's going on around. So thanks so much for being with us, Mike Benjamin.
Thank you for inviting me.
All righty. Listen, come to the end of our show today. Hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice and Anti-Violence Forum. Now to rewatch this week's edition, catch a recablecast right here on BronxNet.org. If you want to join the conversation or present any point of view, join our social media at BronxNet TV, and join us next week as we continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness across the globe. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care and God bless.